Severe weather warnings have been issued for parts of our region. A look at what to expect coming up. And backlash mounts against several states over the transportation of migrants. Plus, a Grand Forks family and the local community are grieving after the death of a young girl. Valley News Live at 6 starts right now.
This is Valley News Live at 6.
A couple of severe weather warnings have been issued for parts of our region. Let's send it straight over to Jim to give us a look at what we can expect. Jim?
Hey, Nishay. Right now we're looking here in Fargo where it's just some cloudy skies. We can see some of those storms off in the distance, and here they are a bit zoomed out. And as we can see, the bulk of where we're watching right now is in the far east of our area. Zoom in a little bit, and right now we do have a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings issued for Beltrami County as well as Hubbard County. And those storms, while they are at the edge of our area, they are on their way out. There is some hail associated with them at about an inch, which is about the size of a golf ball. Here we have is the Doppler radar, which shows areas of rotation. And here in these like pale green or pale gray areas are where there is some broad rotation. That doesn't mean that there's a tornado on the ground or a funnel cloud or anything like that, but there are some areas to watch for some more development as we move on into the evening time hours. Temperatures for right now are in the 60s for those out west, and some places are still in the 70s. And right here where that 60s meet the 70s is where that front is, and that's where we're going to keep watching for any more development. Here in Fargo, we're going to continue to see those cloudy skies and see temperatures dip into the 50s as we move overnight. I will let you know how long those severe storms will last and whether or not we will have more opportunities for that tomorrow coming up.
And good evening, everyone. Eric Whitehill out storm chasing tonight. I am about 5 miles north of Perham, right along the Becker-Ottertail County line. We are watching a storm that is starting to develop, and this storm is going to continue to move off to the east-northeast throughout the next hour or so. Nothing severe at this moment right now, Jim, but I'm going to continue to watch this storm because it is close to the area of low pressure that is centered right over Big Stone County at this time. And I will make sure that if anything does start to develop or become severe, make sure that I let you know right away. Back to you in the studio.
All right, thank you so much, Eric Whitehill. A powerful storm continues to wreak havoc on communities in western Alaska. This video illustrates how sand and debris has spread across the area of Nome, Alaska. Residents are still taking shelter in many of those communities. The governor has declared a disaster, and the state of Alaska has formed an emergency operations center to respond. Damage assessment will begin as soon as the storm water recedes from that area. Also, Tropical Storm Fiona has already battered various parts of the eastern Caribbean islands. One death has been reported in the French territory of Guadeloupe. Fiona was expected to become a hurricane as it neared Puerto Rico today, while threatening to dump up to 20 inches of rain as people braced for potential landslides, severe flooding, and power outages. The storm is expected to swipe past the Dominican Republic, Haiti, and the Turks and Caicos Islands over the next several days. New tonight, a Carlstead man was injured this afternoon following an ATV crash in Kitson County. Minnesota State Patrol reports that the 47-year-old man was traveling on Highway 11 near Trail 314 when he lost control of the vehicle. He was thrown from the ATV before the vehicle rolled. The extent of his injuries are not known at this time. The crash remains under investigation. Backlash mounts against several states, including Florida, over the transportation of migrants to the north. Melissa Rainey has the latest.
This was the scene this week outside Joint Base Cape Cod in Massachusetts, where dozens of migrants are now being housed. It comes after they were sent to Martha's Vineyard from Texas this week. Some say they did not know their destination until last minute, hoping to see loved ones.
We came with, as I say, the idea of reuniting with them.
They were told there was a surprise present for them and that there would be jobs and housing awaiting for them when they arrived. This was obviously a sadistic lie.
Meanwhile, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says he intends to use all of the $12 million allocated in the state budget to relocate migrants out of Florida, adding that many of them end up in his state.
We're going to spend every penny of that to make sure that we're protecting the people of the state of Florida. And these are just the beginning efforts.
Now backlash is coming from the White House and from one Florida politician who says the governor's claims that the state is overwhelmed is a political stunt.
Texas may have an issue, but for the governor of Florida to go to Texas and kidnap his, migrants that have come into his state and make it some kind of crisis in Florida, it is absurd.
These are the kinds of tactics we see from smugglers in places like Mexico and Guatemala. And for what? A photo op?
Migrants were also shipped to Washington, D.C., New York, and Chicago. So far, more than $175,000 have been raised from residents of Martha's Vineyard Island in support of the migrants. I'm Melissa Rainey reporting.
The Department of Justice asked a federal appeals court on Friday to temporarily block Trump-appointed Judge Eileen Cannon's special master ruling. DOJ officials say Judge Cannon's ruling prevents access to classified records seized from former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home. The Justice Department previously argued that any delay in its investigation into Donald Trump's handling and retention of government records could result in irreparable harm to the government and the public. Former White House press secretary Sarah Sanders, a Republican who is running for governor in Arkansas, was released from a hospital today after undergoing surgery for thyroid cancer. A spokesperson for Sanders says the surgery for removing her thyroid and surrounding lymph nodes was successful and she is now cancer-free. Now she will recover at home, but it plans to return to campaigning soon, but it was not known when exactly that will be. People flocked to central London to join the line to file past the coffin of Queen Elizabeth today, and undeterred by government warning to stay at home to avoid standing in line for hours to see the late monarch. Tens of thousands of people have already visited the coffin, including some standing for hours through the dark and cold to pay their respects. Prince William and Prince Harry, as well as Queen Elizabeth II's 6 other grandchildren, held a vigil around her coffin at Westminster Hall today. The sons of King Charles II were joined by Princess Beatrice, Princess Eugenia, Zara Tyndall, the remaining grandchildren to stand guard at the Queen's lying of state for nearly 20 minutes. Prince Harry was allowed to wear his military uniform to the vigil despite no longer serving as a working royal. The Queen will continue to lie in Westminster Hall until her funeral on Monday. One of the Florida Keys' most recognized icons, the Key West's southernmost point marker, has been draped in a royal purple sash in honor of Queen Elizabeth II. The marker, a popular photo stop for visitors to the island, is now being used as a tribute to the Queen. Visitors could be seen taking pictures and observing the tribute, which will remain up until her funeral on Monday. Later on Valley News Live at 6, a Grand Forks family and the local community are grieving after the death of a 9-year-old girl.
And we do have a couple of active thunderstorm warnings at the moment for Beltrami and Hubbard counties, and they're on their way out, but I'll let you know how long this threat will last coming up.